Hey, welcome to the first installment of Catching Up with Chris, Jake, and Sam. I'm Sam, and this is kind of our weekly get-together where we just kind of sit down and catch up what we've been doing lately, what we've been watching, listening to, reading, and I guess get to share it with you guys and provide our insight with all that. So, yeah, everybody else want to introduce themselves?
Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Jake.
And I'm sitting on a squeaky couch.
Very squeaky, very wooden. But, yeah, so it was just kind of at least twice a week, I sit down with one or two of these guys at like a Denny's or an IHOP, and we really just kind of shoot the shit. Oh, yeah, and we're cussing on this podcast, too.
That's fine.
Yeah. About pop culture, or just about, how things are going. It's just kind of an opportunity to, our little window into that, and to kind of share it with you guys. Let's go ahead and, I feel like everybody's streaming something different through like Netflix or HBO Go. So I kind of wanted to kind of touch on what shows are you guys kind of watching right now, and what are you interested in streaming in?
Well, I just recently started streaming through Crackle, the Larry Sanders Show, which that was a show that was started in the like early to mid 90s, and it was just kind of like supposed to be kind of like a play on nighttime talk shows like The Tonight Show and all those other ones. And
how does it compare to Space Ghost Coast to Coast?
Well, Space Ghost Coast to Coast is literally just a talk show. This is supposed to be kind of like behind the scenes. There's not a lot of actual like what gets on the air in the Larry Sanders Show, and I'm not really sure what drew me to it other than the fact that like I remember my mom really liked it back when it was on the air on HBO, and it just happened to be on the computer, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna check this out. Yeah, see what it's all about. And I'm only a couple episodes into it, but it's actually really funny, especially since like that was kind of when I did start watching like late night talk shows. So kind of like seeing like a satirical behind the scenes kind of thing is really funny to me.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I remember watching Carson's last episode as the host of The Tonight Show, and kind of watching early Letterman back when he was still, kind of cool. Because I feel like he's kind of out of touch these days, and I'm kind of feel like he's ready to retire. And
that's why he is retiring.
Yeah. Well, it's good. Yeah, they're not like giving him the boot like they did Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, or he's probably not gonna like come back like 5 times like Jay Leno did.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a show basically. So as you said, it was kind of a satire. How many seasons did it run?
That's a good question. I didn't do my research on this too well. I think it was on for like somewhere between 3 and 5 seasons.
Hit those syndication numbers.
Yeah, exactly. But so far in the first couple episodes, they are pretty judgmental against Jay Leno. So I don't think it's a very pro Jay Leno show. Like many things, Jay Leno does get the boot a lot. Yeah.
He does, but I feel like he doesn't give a shit.
No, nah, but he does kind of earned it.
Yeah,
or does kind of earned it. Whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do indeed. So, Jake, what are you watching?
I actually like Jay Leno, but that's all I got to say about that. Sam, I guess, had just finished watching True Detective on HBO. He has HBO Go, and that's a show I've been waiting to watch for a while now. I like big fan of Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson, and Sam had just finished it, and he was telling me about it, and I had heard coworkers and people coming to the shop talk about it, and so this is a show that I'm only on episode 2 right now, but for me, I mean, it's worth the hype. I mean, I know episode 4 is the episode everyone says you got to get to, because that's where it really starts to kind of heat up and get wild. But for me, like, I love watching any kind of TV, movies, anything, and just to watch the performances. And for me, like, I know there's a lot of like hyperbole and honeymoon phase with stuff, but Matthew McConaughey it's one of those performances where, especially when in episode 2, I completely forget I'm watching somebody act. Even some of my favorite actors, I mean, it's hard to get across, hard to not see that certain actor playing that character. But McConaughey, man, he transforms and just goes dark and he goes to some really kind of crazy places. His character is really fascinating. Woody Harrelson's great too because he's not really the straight man, but like, he's trying to keep it together, especially in the first episode. Some of like the most hilarious quotes that I've heard so far in a TV show, which I wasn't expecting from True Detective. But yeah, I mean, just only two episodes in so far, and I'm really looking forward to getting, the rest of the way. But I mean, for me, easily McConaughey is something. His career to me right now is fascinating because he starts off, pretty much A Time to Kill. He, comes on the scene with this like really kind of super dramatic. Well, I mean, of course, Dazed and Confused, but like in terms of like dramatic, heavy appearances. Then he kind of goes and is like, I'm going to make some rom-coms and have some fun for a bit. And then he's like, you know what? I'm at an age now and I want to start making like amazing movies and win Oscars and, be on great TV shows. So yeah, True Detective for me is really worth the hype right now.
Yeah, after hearing you guys talking about True Detective made me really want to give it another try. Because like when it first came out, I had watched it with my, at the time, roommate, and he got really into it. And I think every time I watched it, I was just really distracted, and I wasn't really paying attention to it. And there was just something about the whole interrogation style storytelling that just rubbed me the wrong way. I just didn't like how the narration was set up. And I only got 3 episodes in, and now everyone's like, "Oh no, episode 4, you got to get to that."
That's the one that's up for a Grammy, and it's my favorite episode in the entire series so far. Yeah, it's. I mean, I remember the first episode being not too different than a lot of crime shows, except it's on HBO, so you can like swear and show like breasts and that sort of thing. But which is always a plus. But yeah,
that was why the first season of Stargate was so great.
Yeah,
because it was on Showtime.
SG1.
Yeah,
but yeah. So I remember watching the first couple episodes are set up, but the second episode you start to see Matthew McConaughey hallucinate, and you don't really get that. I feel like in a lot of traditional procedural shows, and that with the dual narrative, I thought is okay. By the third episode, you start to see how unreliable they are as narrators, especially in some of the later episodes. So,
and also there is the problem, and I don't know if this is just me or a lot of people, but I have a hard time differentiating which one of them is talking. They both have a very similar Southern drawl in that show, at least. If I don't see them talking, I don't know whether it's Woody Harrelson or Matthew McConaughey.
I mean, they're both from Texas, and Matthew McConaughey played Woody Harrelson's brother on Ed TV.
Yeah, and it fit. It was believable.
I mean, luckily, I guess I have the talent where I can tell the two apart. That's one of my many talents. You can have them talking, and I have my eyes closed, and I can tell you if it's Matthew McConaughey or Woody Harrelson.
That's Woody Harrelson right there.
Yeah.
Nah, I got it.
Yeah, that's real nice. That's Woody Harrelson.
That's so creepy coming through my headphones.
Are you sure that it doesn't come off years and years of watching Cheers, Jake?
Actually, it's funny you say that because it probably helps a lot. But watching Woody Harrelson in this, I mean, of course, he's been in all kinds of. He's got a fascinating career as well. Yeah, but for me, I mean, Woody Boyd, I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for Cheers. But then you see him on shows like this or Natural Born Killers or.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, and so yeah, I mean, I really Zombieland's great too. I mean, I'm really excited to watch the show, and I love coming across a show that you're really excited to like get home and watch.
You're excited about the McConaughey, the McConaissance.
McConaissance. Oh, totally, man. I think not to get off topic real quick, but Interstellar looks amazing. Like I can't wait for
in 3 years when it's finally released
for some Interstellar. Yeah, I'll probably be done with True Detective by then.
Yeah, I mean, rewatching it with you, Jake, I get to pick up a lot of things that because I've watched the entire series at this point. I'm rewatching it with you, and I'm picking up a lot of things I hadn't seen before. Stuff like set up for later episodes, and it's really cool to kind of revisit it. And only being 8 episodes long at this point, it's not that hard. In terms of stuff I'm streaming, I'm a big Aaron Sorkin guy. Love the first 4 seasons of The West Wing, where he's the showrunner and the only he wrote every single episode of the first 4
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, the first 4 seasons of The West Wing. And all the, The Social Network, and what else did he write? Charlie Wilson's War, which is an underappreciated film, I thought. And of course he created the Newsroom, which was an attempt to kind of bring vision back to journalism, like The West Wing theoretically did for politics, but as we know, that maybe didn't really happen to politics.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah, and it maybe isn't happening right now with journalism because the Newsroom is considerably less successful. This current season that's about to air, season 3, is supposed to be the last season, but no, I'm a big Sorkin guy. I love a lot of well-crafted dialogue, even if it does get a little pretentious and preachy at times coming from him.
And walk and talks are the best thing ever.
Walk and talks are great. Walk and talks means, you have to choreograph it a lot better than a standard shot, but you're only running through those takes a couple times as opposed to setting up each close-up or each reaction shot. So, yeah, just from a technical aspect. And it's just more dynamic when you're watching it, too. And, yes, there are plenty of walk and talks in the Newsroom. Do you guys watch any Sorkin stuff? Chris, you've watched The West Wing, right?
Yeah, no, I marathoned the entire run, even the post Aaron Sorkin stuff over the course of I think 3 weeks. Right when
that's 7 seasons of television.
Yeah, I didn't have a life, and I did that right before the Newsroom started, and then I was watching the Newsroom week to week.
He did A Few Good Men, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't watch much Sorkin, but I know I like A Few Good Men.
I tried watching the Saturday Night Live show that he did. It wasn't Saturday Night Live,
Studio
but it was
60 on the Sunset Strip.
Yeah, that one. Couldn't get into it.
Neither could most viewers. It got canceled mid-season in its first season.
Oddly enough, though, I'm not a 30 Rock fan either, which was its main competition.
Which is what killed it. In fact, Aaron Sorkin makes that cameo on 30 Rock where...
Did we just do a walk and talk?
Yeah. I love that he's able to kind of have that kind of self-effication.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always kind of stutter on the pronunciation of that word.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, yeah. So in terms of so that's good for TV shows. What's the last movies that you guys saw in theaters?
I just recently saw the Deliver Us from Evil, the new Eric Bana demon possession movie. It was
how many Eric Bana demon possession movies are there?
I know, right? This is the latest in the series. They're like Will Smith alien apocalyptic movies, of which there are 2, 4, 8. All the Men in Blacks.
All the Men in Black. So 3 of those. Independence Day. Does After Earth count?
Does it?
They go back to Earth after it's Earth. God, that movie was terrible.
Right? Anyway,
yeah.
So Eric Bana plays a cop in the Bronx, New York, and Joel McHale is his partner, which I thought was funny. I'm a huge Community fan, and so Joel McHale was actually the main reason why I went to see Deliver Us from Evil. And I was like, I want to see if he can do something serious, because all I've ever seen him do is Community and The Soup, and those are and that failed pilot of the IT Crowd, the American version of the IT Crowd, which was, I understand why it was a failed pilot, because it was bad.
Yeah, I love the British IT Crowd.
It's so good, and I would have loved to see it work, but they didn't do a good job of directing it. But to digress, or to get back on track,
it's a regress.
Sure, regress.
Yeah,
rye bread. What? So I don't know if it's specifically because of my Roman Catholic background, but demon possession movies, I really love them, but they really terrify me. So it was actually really effective at freaking me out and stuff. And it was really well made. It was actually probably one of my favorite demon possession movies. It's definitely my favorite Eric Bana demon possession movie.
That's a really bold statement.
I know. We're gonna get a lot of hate mail for that. But I would argue that with creepiness and scariness, it was up there with The Exorcist,
which is the high watermark of possession films.
Yeah. I'm not gonna make such a bold statement and say that it's on par or better, but it freaked me out just as well. And also like the fact that according to the movie, I don't think the quote unquote real events that it's based on, but according to the movie, I was living in New York at the same time that all this shit was going on. So I was like, not living too far away from the Bronx either.
Well, I'm looking forward. I'm going to see it tomorrow. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking it out. I'm an Eric Bana fan.
Yeah.
Eric Bana fan.
Yeah. Best Hulk, right?
Yeah. And his not little, but his comedic turn and like funny people, I thought kind of stole the movie. But
it freaks me out to remember that he's actually Australian, because I've only ever once seen him or heard him speak and with his natural Australian accent, and that was during an interview. And I was like, "What? I've seen you as the Hulk and this cop guy and a whole bunch of other things that you've been in. Always American."
Well, you know, it's funny when he was making funny people. I guess he originally was supposed to be like an American character, and he wanted to keep his Australian accent because he didn't. I think something along the lines that he didn't know how to be funny with an American accent. Like it was easier for him to be funny with his natural accent. And for me, like I said, I don't know if you have seen Funny People, but you know, he kind of steals the show for me in that movie. So
the interesting thing is he actually started out as a stand-up comedian in Australia.
Yeah, no, he. I have heard him mention that.
Oh, I didn't know that. And of course, I think everyone or most people know him, or first time they really heard of him in the U.S. was probably Black Hawk Down. This has turned into an Eric Bana podcast, which is fine. But yeah,
so our Eric Bana fan club podcast is come to an end today. So what was your last movie, Jake?
My last one I saw was Edge of Tomorrow, and as of right now, and it's my favorite movie of 2014.
Tom Cruise's Groundhog's Day.
Yes, and Emily Blunt, the two of them, kick a whole lot of ass in this movie. But I mean, it's not an original concept because it's basically like, respawning in a video game, but the way they do it with the pacing of going from like humorous to confused to like downright depressing, I mean, I really liked it a lot, and I knew going in that it had received like rave reviews, which I was excited for because Tom Cruise can still carry a movie, and I'm a huge fan of Tom Cruise, and so yeah, I mean, I thought it was just a perfect blend of comedy, action, and kind of this weird sci-fi kind of mix. And I've read some of because it was a novel, then it was a manga, and then it became a graphic novel. And so it's kind of been like, 3 different versions. And I know the original ending and then the ending of the book are all totally different. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a big return to form in the Tom Cruise kind of action movie. I mean, you get like, you think of like his last big sci-fi, I don't know, Minority Report, maybe, with Steven Spielberg. And so, yeah.
Based on a book by Philip K. Dick.
Yes. And so with the vomit stick.
Funnily enough, Minority Report was originally written as a sequel to Total Recall. They used the Martians that can see the future on Mars are the precogs in that story.
Oh, I've read both of those and I didn't pick up on that.
I mean like screenplay.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen both movies, but yeah, that's right. And I feel so stupid right now. In the book that Total Recall is based on, they never go to Mars. So yeah, of course, they wouldn't use the precognitive Martians.
It was so jarring for them not to go to Mars in the remake with Bryan Cranston and Colin Farrell, even though they don't do it in the book.
I do have a question about your
Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, Edge of that. Yeah,
my
Edge
Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah, your Eric Bana.
Yes.
Demon Possession. Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow. So I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So he'll like go through, whatever actions, and then he dies, and he jumps back to some point in the past.
The same point.
And it's always the same point.
It's always the same point.
And he can go for days and days. It's not like Groundhog's Day where he just wakes up.
No.
It's
morning. It's like he'll keep going until he dies. Mm-hmm. And so like when it first happens, you obviously think it's a dream or something. And then he starts to realize that when he dies, he resets to this moment. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know, it's just really clever with when they reset things. Because it at no point for me, when I saw the movie, do you get bored of pretty much there are points where you see the same scene like 5 or 6 times, same dialogue, everything. But Tom Cruise, of course, they don't ever say how many days how many times he relives things,
Mhm.
but you got to think it's like hundreds or thousands of times because
Yeah.
it gets to a point where like he knows everything and he's saying it before it's happening. But the really tragic thing is Emily Blunt's character. She goes by like the Full Metal Bitch or the Angel of Verdun, who for me is like the most badass performance of 2014. She used to have this power that involves the mimic blood getting in your bloodstream and blah blah blah, and so he kind of like, you know, falls in love but develops this relationship with her. But basically, she has to, you know, she basically meets him for the first time every single time, and he has to restart this relationship that he knows and remembers and is strong. So he's seeing her die every day,
Like-
over
like
and
50
over.
First Dates.
It's 50 first dates. Someone actually made that reference. But yeah, but he keeps like, there's a scene where he just keeps seeing her. You just see her die about 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and it really starts to get to him. And then he really starts to, you know, become depressed, and this whole idea of, because in the difference from the book and the movie is, in the book, he enlists to be a soldier and actually like fight in the war. In the movie, he is a kind of like a public relations guy in the military, and basically is winning the heart and minds of the people. And they send him to the front line. He refuses to go and tries to blackmail the general into, you know, not going. Gets stripped of his rank, and then you know, kind of earns his. He gets he basically becomes like this like war machine because he knows everything that's going to happen,
And then he springs to life.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Uh,
And the Top Gun theme plays, and he kicks all kinds of ass.
You bringing up the whole you not knowing how many times he's gone through, that reminds me, Groundhog's Day. Like 2 years ago, I read this article where someone was like, you know, in the movie Groundhog's Day, he like masters the piano and like ice sculpting and all these crazy things. Like, in order to get to the level that he got to with all of those different things, means that he would have had to have been reliving that same day for like over 1,000 years or something ridiculous like that.
The original script actually like has him live out like virtually millennia,
Yeah,
stuck in this like purgatory state.
that's terrifying to me.
Yeah, I mean, it is, because you see the frustration of him. Like, there's a scene where he's like, you don't get it. Like, he's talking to Emily Blunt. He's like, no matter how hard I try, you don't make it past this point. Like, I've done this over. And she's like, wait, how many times have you done this? And you just see the look on his face like,
You don't want to.
yeah,
know.
you're not, you know, if you do this, you're not going to survive. Of course, she doesn't listen. It keeps going back and forth, back
Naturally.
and forth. And so anyway, long way of saying, like, check it out. It's
Yeah.
easily. So as of right now, my favorite movie of 2014, definitely.
I mean, the last movie it's been a month since I've been in the movie theater.
Ugh,
the last movie I saw.
a month.
Oh my God.
I mean, some of you guys are there like almost every week, but I'm like, yeah.
There was a month where you and I were going to the
Yeah.
movies like every couple days.
Well, May, yeah, we saw
when there were so many good movies coming out.
In May, we saw Amazing Spider-Man 2, Godzilla, and X-Men Days of the Future Past, which was
And we got to see that screening of the original Godzilla too.
Yes, Godzilla 1954. Yes.
Sure.
Which hasn't aged that well, to be perfectly honest. But it's still better than the American re-release with Raymond Burr basically narrating what happens on screen.
It was terrible. I watched that on Netflix.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
did the same thing to the second one too.
Godzilla 1985 as well.
That too. But I was talking about the like Godzilla like 19...
Raids again.
Yeah. Yeah, they did like the same thing for the American release, and I was like, yeah, this is terrible.
Yeah, honestly, my favorite Godzilla film is still Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. But the original Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, not the 90s remake. But the last movie I saw in theaters was X-Men Days of Future Past. There just hasn't been anything in theaters that has really gotten me to go back in the entire month of June, and I've been on the road a lot.
Not with these 2 rave reviews that you just heard?
Yeah, not yet. Maybe we'll see the new Planet of the Apes movie. I find it bizarre that there's 8 films in the Planet of the Apes franchise, by the way, which is as many Harry Potter movies, and it's more than theatrically released Star Wars films.
And oddly enough, speaking of the Harry Potter movies, both franchises feature Tom Felton.
True, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, actually, X-Men Days of Future Past is the only movie like all of us have seen. Like, we haven't all seen the Eric Bana one. We haven't seen the Tom Cruise. So yeah, we all can.
Well, though we've all seen we've seen everything before.
Well, yeah,
X-Men.
like in recent the recent
Yeah.
movies. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm the only not
and yet
original one.
none that all 3 of us has gone to together.
Yeah. Well, no, not the three of us.
Technically, snakes on a plane, which we discovered before we started
I think
recording.
we figured out that years ago we were all the same snakes on a plane
Midnight screening. Worth it.
It was a Wednesday opening, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember.
Yeah. I'm just kind of, I remember that. But, yeah. So, I mean, Jake, you mentioned that we all kind of, I feel like the three of us each kind of get interested in something and we go on this massive, like, kick. And you mentioned that after seeing, Edge of Tomorrow, you kind of went on a minor Tom Cruise kick. What are your guys' like latest, like, what can you not get enough of these days?
Oh, right now, I'm actually on a Douglas Adams kick. Many will know him as the author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Unfortunately, he passed away near the end or middle of 2001. And shortly after, they found like a half-written book on his computer that originally had been the third book from his lesser-known Dirk Gently series that he had actually just recently decided to convert into a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book. Because
Dirk Gently sounds like a porn star.
It does. Freak, this man's dead. But so I finally I'm really bad at reading. You guys know that I'm a terrible reader. So what I do is actually listen to audiobooks and radio plays, since that and which is really cool for someone who's interested in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because they did radio play versions of all the books, so you can actually listen to the stories portrayed by different actors and stuff like that. So I recently found a copy of And Another Thing, which is the finalized version of that last book that they found on his hard drive. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go and binge on the entire series. So I got audiobooks of all the Hitchhiker's Guide books and even the Dirk Gently books, because I was like, I kind of want to see if I can piece together like where it would have fit, with the original manuscript. So I just recently got up to And Another Thing, the last book, and I'm digging it so far. It's pretty cool. The guy who ghost wrote it, or actually not even ghost wrote, because he gets credit for it, but the guy that wrote it does a decent job of finding Douglas Adams' very unique voice, because that was one of the things that always got me to love Douglas Adams. He has a very specific way of writing, and Stephen Fry, who was one of his good friends, pointed out like the thing that's great about Douglas Adams' writing is that no matter what, it always sounds like he's writing to you, not to an audience, not to, it doesn't sound like he's making a speech. It kind of sounds like he's talking in conversation, even in his writings.
Fun fact, Stephen Fry and Douglas Adams were the first two men in the UK to get Apple personal computers. Yeah,
anyone that knows anything about Douglas Adams beyond being an author knows that he's an Apple computer enthusiast, and it's really unfortunate that he passed away before like the real like huge Apple explosion that happened with like the iPhone and the iPod. Like if you think about it, 2001 doesn't feel like it was that long ago. It was over 10 years ago though, and there were no iPhones.
Yeah, at that point it was iPhone comes out in 2006. The first generation iPod comes out, I want to say 2002. But at that point, the iMac had become. That's when they start to gain steam. But it's the iPod that like everyone kind of loses their shit over.
Yeah, and there was also a book called A Salmon of Doubt that came out that was published about a year after his death. That had a whole bunch of his like essays and stuff like that. And you really get the feel like half of them are talking about how great Apple computers are. And then actually there was one, speaking of like things that we're into right now, I'm really into brewing my own tea because of this one article that he had written about how like, he's like, I've figured it out. I know why Americans don't like tea. And it's because none of you know how to brew it. Half of you just stick a mug in the microwave and dunk a tea bag into it. And that's how you make tea.
Guilty as charged.
Ugh, it's. I was never that bad until I moved to New York and I didn't have a tea kettle, so I had to microwave my cup. But he goes on this huge rant about just like the proper way to make English tea, and I was like, I'm gonna try this. I know my parents have, the right kind of like tea kettle and serving kettle, because there's a difference. It's not just one tea kettle that you pour into. So I did this whole thing, and I must say it actually does taste better when you go through all these steps. It like takes like 10 minutes versus 3.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was the same way as a kid. It was like microwave the water, throw the tea bag in, and put some sugar in it or whatever.
I'm gonna make you guys some tea after we're done recording this.
I mean, real like deal British tea is like amazing because my aunt is British, and so when I would go over and help my uncle with like landscaping, we'd have like a tea break, and it was like the real deal tea, and it's like it's amazing. Like there's a huge difference, and she would say the same kind of thing, like oh, you Americans tea the same way, and so
the only thing I need to upgrade is the actual tea I'm using. I'm using Trader Joe's bagged Earl Grey tea, and I need to. That's pretty much the only thing I have left is I need to graduate into actual like loose leaf English tea.
It's become a tea podcast.
Yeah. Eric Bana and tea. Yeah. It's tea time with Eric Bana.
That's the best. If only we can get
on
that
NPR.
big to get him on here.
All right, Jake. What's your kick?
My kick. Well, real quick, you were just talking about audiobooks.
Yeah.
And just quick, the
let's talk about
audiobook.
that.
I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks lately too, and the last one I listened to was Dennis Leary's "Why We Suck," about like why we suck, and it's really funny and actually kind of like painfully true and disturbing, but mostly funny.
Oh, actually, speaking of audiobooks, there was another thing that I wanted to go back to. It was really cool finally listening to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and the Dirk Gently audiobooks because Douglas Adams did all of his own audio recordings. So like the only ones that you're not listening to him read the stories are the ones that were recorded posthumously. So that was really cool. I'd never heard his voice before. So like hearing him read his story, like a lot of the audiobooks that I've done or listened to, like it's like written by this guy, but read by this voice actor, and rightfully so, because a lot of them aren't that eloquent when they speak. That's why they write.
Yeah, I do love that Neil Gaiman does all his audiobooks too.
Yeah, maybe I'll check him out.
And
next.
yeah, just really, Dennis Leary reads the audiobook, and even as a Yankees fan, I really like it because he's pretty much like, if you're a Yankees fan, you will hate this book. But for kicks, I mean, anyone who's been like 10 feet near me in the past like month, 2 months, it's like been all about Prince. And like all about Prince. And I mean, this is how the kick started. This is how easily I can like become obsessed with something. I was rewatching an episode of Family Guy, and it was like the whatever setup it was for like The Price is Right with Prince, and it's like little animated Prince drawn, and he's this little joke, whatever it is, blah blah blah. And I'm watching that, and I'm like, man, that song "When Doves Cry" is like really awesome. I haven't heard it in a while. So I listened to it and I was like, wait. This song is like, it's like blowing my mind right now. And so I went through, and I'd actually never really listened to Purple Rain. Like it's one of those albums everyone talks about, and everyone just knows as a pop culture like thing, movie and album and stuff. And so I went and I just listened to the entire album, and then watched the movie, which I had never seen either. And the movie's interesting, but it's all about the performance. He's always touted as like the greatest live performer of all time, and watching the performance scenes in that are like astounding. And it's been enough time now where like I can really like sit back and listen to his music and be like, this guy seriously, in my opinion, like alive on the planet today is like, there's no more talented musician that I can think of than Prince. I mean, this guy writes, produces, he plays most of the instruments you hear on the albums. And like he's so prolific, like he's been writing albums and music videos, stuff we'll probably never hear, like thousands of songs. And I know Kevin Smith always joked like that he was like making music so in case the world ended, we would still have music, and like Prince could like just usher in Prince music. But I mean, the idea that like they were like, hey, we need a song for Purple Rain, and he wrote and recorded and produced "When Doves Cry" in one night. Like, and when that's easily one of his most famous songs.
Yeah, and what about the story about him doing the soundtrack for Batman too?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I think the story goes they asked him for one song, and he came back with an entire album. And it was at an era when
all original stuff too.
Yeah, all original stuff. Yeah. And he was given, of course, the audio from the movie, which Bat Dance, which is like it's like an insane song. But the thing about at the time, I mean, having Prince, I mean, that movie had all kinds of people think it was going to fail miserably. It was going to be like the campy Batman 66 stuff, and then you have like Prince attached to it. Like try to think of like Avengers, and they're like, okay, we're going to have Weird Al. We're going to have Justin Timberlake do the. I'm not saying they're the same, but like some big pop star of now doing the soundtrack to Avengers.
Well, yeah. I remember actually being in your shop a couple years ago, back when one of the Chris Nolan the Dark Knight was first. It was first announced that Heath Ledger was going to play the Joker, and everyone was like, "What? The dude from Brokeback Mountain? What? How dare he be the Joker?"
Yeah.
And someone in the shop was like, "Well, I remember when the first Tim Burton Batman came out. They were like, wait, the director of Pee-wee's Big Adventure and a stand-up comedian as Batman."
Yeah, and Prince doing
I
one of the.
I can't imagine being a comic book fan at that hour and be like, what?
But like, as Sam points out, in Gotham in 1989, the only thing people listen to is Prince. Like that entire movie is Prince. And so, yeah, I mean, I seriously could go on talking about Prince forever, but yeah, that's the kick.
And that movie
our Prince podcast.
Well, that movie came out at a time when Prince wasn't too popular, right?
Well, no, I mean, Purple Rain was such a huge smash hit. And then after that, he'd have singles that would peak, an album, critically acclaimed songs. But he was kind of on the down and out in 1989, going into the 90s. And out comes the Batman 89 soundtrack and just puts him back on top.
Like Drake.
Yes, they're the exact same person. And so, yeah, and it's the 30th anniversary of Purple Rain. So go watch or listen to Purple Rain.
Did the album and the movie come out?
The movie came. I don't know the exact date. I know June was when the album came out. In July, I believe.
But
is when the movie
it's the
came
30th anniversary for both.
For
this
both,
year?
yeah, for both.
Okay.
And I know that Prince is back with Warner Brothers. Like the whole reason he changed his name and went to an unpronounceable symbol was to get out of the contract. Supposedly, they're back on good speaking terms. I don't know why I'm like promoting Prince right now, but he's got a new album. He's got a new album coming out, and they're supposedly doing a re-release for Purple Rain.
How much is Prince paying you for this shout out?
A lot of money, and his favorite tea is Earl Grey.
That's how we're funding this podcast.
I would, yeah.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Prince, we love you.
Yeah.
Bat Dance is the best song ever.
It's not even my favorite song on that album. It's probably Party Man or Trust.
Trust. And now we're getting sued by Prince.
Just for that intonation, yeah. For me, I guess the big kick I've been on is I've been on a big kung fu movie kick. I just got off like a big Bruce Lee kick because I was Bruce Lee last Halloween, and suddenly Netflix added like a bunch of Bruce Lee movies like at the beginning of this year, and I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to watch all the Bruce Lee movies except for Enter the Dragon because they don't have that on Netflix because it's a different studio, but it's cool because I have it on Blu-ray, and I'm going to watch The Game of Death, which is kind of messed up because it was a movie that Bruce Lee was working on, and he died during production. Actually, he ends production of Game of Death to work on Enter the Dragon, which is the first major Hollywood kung fu film.
After they had gotten enough footage for a 45-minute fight sequence for Game of Death, right?
Honestly, his best fight scenes is the unfinished footage from Game of Death, where he takes on a Aikido master. He takes on a judo master, and he takes on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who is his equal in that film.
Have you seen his feet?
Yeah.
They are Bruce Lee's torso.
That's why he was so cool with the LA Lakers, back in the 70s. But so I went through. So they took the unfinished footage because he dies before the release of Enter the Dragon, and they basically made an entire movie around it called The Game of Death, which was what it was originally called, and it's terrible. Like there's scenes where they have like cardboard, like at one point Bruce Lee's character, which I use quotation marks because he's played for the most of the film by a completely different actor, he's looking at himself in a mirror and they have like a cardboard cutout of Bruce Lee's face over the actor's face, and then he spins around, knocks out a light so you can't fully see his face, and like beats up some guys.
Yeah. I remember watching a couple scenes of that. I haven't seen the full movie, but I watched a couple of those like scenes as part of like a compilation of like some of the worst things ever done to like for Bruce exploitation, as they call it,
which is a subgenre of
And I remember being like, wow, they did a better job concealing the pig faces on that one episode of The Twilight Zone, The Beauty is in the Eye of the Beholder, or whatever it's called. Yeah, they did a better job concealing those faces than these guys did making me believe that Bruce Lee was actually acting in this movie.
It's pretty bad. I mean, and they actually, because Bruce Lee's character fakes his death over the course of the film, and they show actual footage of Bruce Lee's funeral, and you see Bruce Lee's like corpse like during his viewing, and then they juxtapose that with scenes of the actors reacting as if they're at Bruce Lee's character's funeral, and I'm like, some lines were crossed, man. Like there's some ethical problems I have with this. And so after I got through all of Bruce Lee's movies, right now I watch Shaolin Soccer to prepare for the end of the World Cup, which is
as you should.
Yeah, which is a fantastic kung fu / soccer film. So if you love that sub genre, watch that. And
if you're a fan of kung fu and of soccer, we recommend Shaolin Soccer.
Fantastic film, though Kung Fu Hustle, the follow-up, is even better.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm on a Jackie Chan kick. I just watched Armor of God, which has a very Prince-like fight sequence.
Yeah, I walked downstairs to get ready to watch episode 2 of True Detective. It's all coming back together, and
just like True Detective,
making tea upstairs for Sam and I
with Eric Bana,
and Prince on in the background. And I walked downstairs and I'm like, "Hey Sam," he's like, "Hey, oh hey," and I'm just watching. Yeah, we're just watching the most ridiculous. It's funny. The first thing that popped in my mind was like it looked like he was fighting a bunch of princes, like Prince, and
not royal princes,
not royal princes, but like the
prince.
Purple one, his royal badness, and it was Jackie Chan like fighting like I don't know how many like 4 like Amazon sized women, and it was like I mean it was funny, but like it was like an astounding fight scene. Like there were stunts where like they were doing like backflips, falling off like I don't know 7-8 foot like ledges and just like falling on their back. Like there's no like cutaway, there's no pads. I mean like the what their bodies went through in the stunts. I mean I was like amazed. I was like I immediately have to watch this movie. Like I've seen very little Jackie Chan. I'm not a kung fu expert. I mean anything I know I've learned from like watching movies with Sam or him talking about it. But it was very funny and humorous, which I think it was supposed to be. Like there's a scene where he like punches one of them in the boobs and it's just like slow mo and they kind of look at each other and he has like the Jackie Chan like, oh I don't know what I'm doing face. Yeah, and then it's I don't know, but like the actual fighting and stunts were like unreal.
Yeah, no, I remember I independently of you guys I had caught that movie as well and I was floored with how good it is.
It's on Netflix, guys. Check it out. It's on Netflix as Operation Condor 2 Armor of God, because it was originally released before Operation Condor is released in the U.S., and after Operation Condor had big success in the U.S., they released the first film as a prequel.
Yeah, and that's also the one that almost killed Jackie Chan, right?
Yeah, for a relatively simple stunt. Like, he does, like, some crazy shit in this movie. Like, he skydives onto a hot air balloon, but that wasn't what almost killed him. What almost killed him is he grabs a tree, and it's so thin that it bends over a wall, and he runs away and does, Jackie Chan hijinks. But there's a take, and it's in the credits, because he always has the bloopers, the outtake reel during the credits.
Just like Midnight Run.
Right. So he grabs the tree, the branch breaks, and he cracks his skull open. And then you're watching like 30 seconds of basically the end credits becomes how Jackie Chan almost died.
Didn't they use that take in the movie too? Do you know?
No. They actually redid the scene.
Okay.
But because of that, he now has a plastic hole in his a plastic plug in his head. And he almost lost an ear too, because he hits all the branches going on the way down. So yeah.
Disgusting.
But yeah, I mean, big Jackie Chan kick. Watch that. Watch Super Cop, which is also on Netflix. Project A is on Netflix, which is another standout Jackie Chan film. I really wish they had Wheels on Meals, which is one of my favorites, because his fights in that there's like there's an even bigger fight sequence than what he's got in Armor of God. That's really cool.
One of my favorites of his was always Rumble in the Bronx. I'm not sure why, but I feel like it had a lot of some of the most intricate choreography I've seen him do.
It was the first major Hollywood production he starred in.
Not Midnight Run?
Not Midnight or Cannonball Run?
Is it Cannonball Run?
Yep.
Ah,
I let it slide the first time.
This entire podcast is based on a lie. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't even know what tea is. Who's Eric Bana?
Who's Prince? Yeah.
How dare you?
But yeah, it's
Yes, Cannonball Run.
Cannonball
Where
Run.
He did,
and
where
it's
he did
Cannonball
not-
Run 2, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm
He
pretty
also
sure,
didn't star in it. If
I'm
you
pretty
want to,
sure
if you
we
want
also-
to kick me while I'm down,
I'm pretty sure we also said that True Detective was up for a Grammy in the beginning of this podcast.
did you?
I thought I said Emmy. I
You
Oh,
said Grammy. I mean, they sing in it. I mean, it's a musical. It's a musical.
They should. It's so good. It should win Grammys too. It should
and Tonys, and
and
Tonys.
Tonys. It should transcend
Yeah,
everything.
you know what? You're gonna shit on me. I'm gonna have my boy Jake shit on you.
Fair enough. Fair enough. The circle of shit continues. But yeah, that's the big trend of the
Sounds
big
disgusting.
Kick. Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, it's the big kick I've been on lately. Now I know you guys aren't like the biggest gamers in the world, but is there any video games you guys have been getting into lately?
I've actually, I'm gonna say, I've gone a little old school, even though it's not really old school, because it's not like 8-bit games or stuff like that. But I recently plugged in, I guess you would say, my video editing computer, which doubles as my gaming computer because it basically needs to have the same specs. And started playing my old copy of Grand Theft Auto Vice City again. And I'm pretty proud to say that I finally figured out how to get 6 stars in my warning level, and I did it.
Which is the highest possible danger level and the point where the military starts to hunt you down.
Mm-hmm. I finally figured out that you had to beat a certain mission where you basically become Scarface.
I always found it weird that your character in that game is voiced by Ray Liotta.
Yeah. But you know what? I dig it. I like it. But yeah, so he, I finally beat that mission, and I was like, cool. And I looked up a cheat code on how to just manifest a tank because I was like, I want to have fun. so I just started driving around fake Miami with a tank blowing shit up, and it didn't take too long to get.
I don't like how they can arrest you in the tank.
Right?
Like, how do they pull you over in the tank?
Well, so the problem with the tank, although it is a juggernaut, and cars running into it will explode, and you have that, the turret on top, it's very slow and very susceptible to getting stuck places. So they can walk up to you and open up the door and pull you out.
Yeah, you'd think there would be some sort of locking mechanism. We told you they should put locking
just like
mechanisms on the
Jurassic
doors.
Park.
Yeah.
Those cars that come standard with locking mechanisms.
Yeah.
That's something that always bothered me from that movie because I owned that car. I had that Explorer. I was like, it does lock.
Complete with the same paint scheme?
Oh my God, the Ninja Turtles paint scheme would have been so good. And then the giant dome roof so I could be attacked by a T-Rex. So that's what I've been playing. I also downloaded Halo because I was watching Red vs. Blue on Netflix a little while ago, and I was like, I miss playing Capture the Flag. So I downloaded Halo for the PC, just the first Halo, and I was like, I'm gonna play, and I went on to the online section where the only place where you can play Capture the Flag, and no one else was on the servers, and I was like, I guess that makes sense since they're on Halo 8 now. I don't really care.
Okay.
And Left 4 Dead. I love me some Left 4 Dead. So I play both of those games.
I recently downloaded Sniper Elite 3.
Pinnacle of the Sniper Elite
the
series.
sequel to Sniper Elite 2. And
Trequel?
this time you're in Africa and you're doing snipery things. Very sneakily, or if you want to go balls to the wall, which is always a horrible idea in a sniper game. But I mean, it's insanely difficult. But it's entertaining. It's fun. I don't know. I feel like sniper games, for the most part, they're starting to become a thing. But the only ones I've ever played that were worth anything were the Sniper 2 game and Sniper 3. In the Sniper 2 game, there is a DLC where you can kill Hitler, which is pretty sweet.
In Africa.
Not in Africa. In the second one, you're not in Africa. The second one...
oh, okay. This is for the second one.
Yeah, you're in Europe.
In the third one, is the soundtrack by Toto?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet.
I mean, I got nothing on that. The only game I've been really playing... There's 2 games I've been playing lately. The Last of Us on the PS3, which is the best survival horror game I've played in a very long time.
I watched a playthrough of that on YouTube. It looked pretty good.
Yeah, it's basically what the Resident Evil games kind of distanced themselves. The Resident Evil games turned from survival horror to action and adventure, and it's like, well, I kind of want...
Well, it's all those great movies.
Oh, yeah, totally. I know that you unironically love all those films.
I do. I love Paul W.S. Anderson.
Yes.
Because he knows what he's doing, and he's not apologetic for it.
He's your favorite Paul Anderson.
Yes. He's actually my favorite Anderson.
Oh, wow. Even over the Wes.
I can't stand Wes Anderson.
He's either a love him or you hate him filmmaker. I kind of love him. But so The Last of Us on the PS3 and Crackdown on the 360, which is basically Grand Theft Auto, except you're the cops. So, yeah, you're the man. Keeping things safe in whatever that city you're in.
I was wondering why I smelled bacon.
They should just repackage that as like a Dread game.
Right?
I'm waiting for like an
set it in the future.
Like I'm waiting for like I've played Judge Dredd vs. Death, which is actually a fun game. And actually Rebellion they do Sniper Elite 3, but they did like the 2000 AD games, like the Rogue Trooper game, which is actually really awesome on Xbox. But yeah, I mean, I'm waiting for like an open world, like Crackdown type game where you're a judge. Like you're not Judge Dredd, but you create a judge, you rise up through the ranks, and that'd be really kind of fun.
Just basically Crackdown mixed with Duke Nukem.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. So, I mean, let's kind of take a little more analog, a little less digital. What are you guys like? Is there anything you guys are reading these days?
I mean, as I said earlier, I don't read too much. But I've been picking up some comic books recently.
What tickles your fancy?
Well, so that's the grossest way to say that in the world. So I was kind of born and raised DC comics, Batman, Superman, whatnot. And like I've dabbled in Marvel comics here and there. I enjoyed the occasional Spider-Man or Deadpool. They're cool. But something that piqued my interest recently was their Original Sin run, and it's actually really interesting, except for the fact that I don't know who half the heroes are that are featured in it. And like the big thing about Original Sin is like, oh no, we know more information that we didn't know about you guys earlier. Like, well, I'm enjoying it, but the single-handedly the worst panel in like almost all of comic book history is in it, where just the big inciting incident happens.
The truth bomb.
Yeah, the truth bomb goes off, and you have McClintock?
Matt Murdock?
Sure. Who the hell is McClintock?
It's a 1960s film starring John Wayne.
All right, Matt Murdock, Daredevil.
I'm sorry, I've never heard anyone bastardize Daredevil's alter ego worse than that.
You know what? The only exposure to Daredevil I have is Ben Affleck and Frank Miller's
That's
Born
like
Again.
John Travolta trying to say Matt Murdock's name.
Okay, I'll accept.
I want
that.
you to go through all the alter egos of characters and say what they actually sound like.
Spider-Man is Pete Townsend.
Okay.
No, but you have Matt Murdock, Daredevil, just like grab his head and is like, oh, I suddenly know who killed my mother for no reason.
He's like, well, yeah, it's like, I suddenly know who killed my mom. Somehow, I just know.
yeah. And like, that stuck with me more than like who killed
the Watcher. Yeah, which
like,
we don't even know.
Yeah, or like what Bucky does. It's like, like no, Matt Murdock. Or McClintock. Kyle MacLachlan. Sitting there like, I know who Bob is. That's a Twin Peaks reference for any of you listening who don't.
Also on Netflix.
Yeah, you should check it out. But don't look at the preview pictures because they spoil things for the upcoming episodes. Just throwing that out there.
I know
Someone
exactly
else talk and screw up a secret identity.
All right. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, even though I've never actually read I've read some of it, but starting from the beginning, reading J. Michael Straczynski and John Romita Jr.'s Spider-Man arc, which is pretty fantastic. I know there's a lot of fans or people who aren't huge Romita Jr. fans. I love his work on like Man Without Fear, the Frank Miller stuff. I think that is maybe my favorite John Romita art that he's done, or Jr., of course. And of course, his dad, John Romita Sr., like for me, is the Spider-Man artist. So that's got to be like a pretty wild thing for like his dad to see his son like taking over the mantle and doing, you know, Spider-Man. And for me, J. Michael Straczynski, like his inner monologues with Spidey, like his thoughts, the pop culture references he makes, are you know, I'm just like enjoying the hell out of this Spider-Man. I'm only on the first volume so far. I don't know. I can't remember what issue number it is because I'm reading it in trade. So, but I mean, it deals with like a lot of heavy stuff. I mean, this of course deals with has the famous September 11th issue. And also deals. There's like a school shooting in one of the issues. I also really like that Peter Parker is a science teacher in his old elementary school. I think for Peter Parker, that is the best occupation he could have. Dealing with helping, he sees like the bullied kids that he was and trying to help them and trying to get them excited. You know, not just about science, but just about learning and trying to get out of the ruts that they're put in by whether it is, you know, poverty or lack of parental figure or anything like that. And the fact that like there's like a good like first arc, there's like a 4 or 5 issue just beatdown of Spider-Man, and I think that's for me, that's when John Romita Jr.'s art shines the most, is the action sequences. And like for some reason in comic books, like battle damaged Spider-Man looks freaking awesome, and he like gets the shit kicked out of him, but you know, just his costume's all tattered, and he keeps trying to like change in the back into Peter Parker, and then rips off his clothes to become Spider-Man again, and has almost like that Superman shirt rip-esque kind of thing going on. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like it's becoming one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Spider-Man run that I've ever read.
That kind of reminds me. I read the Ultimate Spider-Man.
That's a great run too.
Yeah,
that's a
where
really great run.
Before Miles Morales, but like the Peter Parker Ultimate
the
Spider-Man
Ben stuff. Mm-hmm.
Like especially like the last couple issues where you know, spoiler alert, but they kill off Peter Parker, and like you see him like running all over New York City trying to like fight this bad guy, this bad guy, this bad guy, just trying to prove that he's a serious, like mature hero.
Yeah.
And like finally once he does, that's what kills him.
Well, that entire arc, he's like bleeding to death while he's running around New York.
I loved that.
Yeah. And then as he's dying in Aunt May's arms, he's like, it kind of comes full circle because I couldn't save Uncle Ben, but I could save you. Mm-hmm. And that's like, it was like the kind of the lump in the throat moment. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's my Field of Dreams moment. Field of Dreams, if you are unaware, is the one movie that makes me cry like an uncontrollable madman, by more so than by the end of the film. Yeah, and that's the Field of Dreams moment for that book. But yeah, I
knowing what I know of Field of Dreams, I probably would be a big crying ball too.
Yeah, I'll let you borrow it one of these days.
Thanks.
Yeah,
those kind of stories always get to me too.
Yeah, very cathartic. The whole father-son thing.
Yeah,
issues, but the So I think I like Straczynski's characterization of Spider-Man. My big thing is like I like Moreland, who's this new villain he creates, but I don't like the idea of Peter Parker being like the spider totem.
Yeah, I mean, when he kind of drops the bombshell where he's like, you know, did you get your powers from the radiation? Like, did the radiation give the powers to the spider that gave to you, or was the spider giving you the powers before you died of radiation poisoning? That was cool, but then it becomes kind of like this like mystic, ancient kind of thing. But you know, for me, that kind of gets
like Halle Berry's Catwoman.
Yes, it's the exact same thing. And for that's fine, whatever. But then it just deals with the fight with just like I said, it was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 issue fight, which is, you know, at one point he gets like, you know, he like jumps into, he flings himself into like a building or into a window and changes into Peter Parker, and he hears Letterman on in the background, and he's like, Letterman's playing? We've been fighting for 3 hours, and then it becomes 12 hours. Then, you know, he calls Mary Jane to leave a message because he's like convinced he's going to die, and he calls Aunt May like one more time to like, you know, kind of talk to her. And like the great thing about Spider-Man 2 is it deals with all, like, you know, like I said, Straczynski's humor that he gives Spider-Man, but also like the moments when like a kid is about to be harmed, where he goes like to straight like white hot rage that, you know, someone would never want to hurt innocence. And I don't know, like the characterization I really love of Straczynski's Spider-Man a lot.
I think I'm gonna have to borrow this from you.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't own it.
Well, then never mind. I won't.
Sam has it, and that's how
I might have to borrow this from Sam.
Borrowed from Sam because it is like.
Let's not bring Sam into this, though. Let's just the two of us talk about me borrowing his stuff.
Over tea.
Yeah, with Eric, Bana, and Prince.
I mean, I'm cool with it. I'm down with it. But yeah.
No one asked you, Sam.
We're just going to take your Spider-Man books. Spider-Man! Give me pictures of Spider-Man.
This crap. I'll give you $400 for it.
But yeah, in terms of stuff that I'm reading, I'm reading, like, as Jake can attest, because he works at the shop. I read a shitload of comic books.
You really do. I've been there where you bought your comics, and it's like I've heard them tell you that there's no more room in your subscription box.
Yeah, that's true. That is absolutely true. I'm starting to kind of pare down. Like, I'm dropping Green Arrow after the current writer leaves.
Getting rid of Justice United.
I already got rid of Justice League United. Already dropped the Hulk.
Just real quick to interject, Jake, didn't Justice United win a little award for most dropped subscriptions?
I mean, I work at a comic shop, and it's a bummer because Jeff Lemire and the Canadian Heritage and creating the Justice League United. But yeah, I mean, that book was probably the most dropped book I've ever seen while working at the comic shop. That, and I think Savage Hulk was a big one too. But
yeah, I mean, I am reading more and more creator-owned books. Like, if you're a big fan of, it's really hard to sell this book because of the title, but Sex Criminals is one of my favorite books on the stands.
Because he's a pervert.
Yeah, but it's about these people that can. I can't even tell you because it's like kind of a weird concept.
And that's why you can't sell it to anyone.
Yeah, I know. It's really weird. I tell people what it's about, and they're like, "Well, that sounds like the dumbest idea for a book ever." I'm like, "But there's sex in it," and they're like, "Oh, okay."
And didn't they have all those like goofy reprint covers for their first issue?
Or they had like the fifth printing. That's actually probably there's a trade. The first trade came out of that book a little while ago. That's probably the most picked up and looked at book in the shop, and you're sort of giggling. And then someone's like, "Why did you buy it?" "Oh, I don't want to buy it. Sex Criminals. I'm not a weirdo."
It's like I said, it's because of that title. It's a really hard book to be like, "Hey, man, you should really be reading Sex Criminals." Like to all my listeners out there, pick up Sex Criminals.
Knowing you would love Sex Criminals. What are you trying to say, man? What are you trying to say?
Yeah, it's a tough book to sell. But
Speaking of creator-owned stuff, I actually, if I may interject, I've recently finished the 4-issue run of Loki Ragnarok and Roll by Eric Esquivel. I apologize if I said your name wrong.
Would be the first name you bastardized today in this podcast.
That's who I am. This is me now.
Both of us have bastardized James. Is it Tinian?
Yeah, I believe that's what I heard.
You
Tinian.
shouted that name at him.
James Tynan.
At every con I've seen him. Baltimore and two separate New York Comic Cons at this point now.
We were pulling into Baltimore Comic Con last year, and the first cosplayer, the first person we see is James Tinian. I'm sorry, I don't know how to. Is it Tinian?
I'm pretty sure I heard someone call him to his face Tinian.
Okay, so James Tinian the Fourth, but at the time, Sam's James Tynan the Fourth. James, and you see a look of terror, look of terror on his face that
because
he forever
mispronounced his name.
Yes, and the fact that he's not even in the freaking con yet, and he's already getting shouted at.
It's so weird that Sam has this obsession with yelling out this guy's name.
It's the Roman numeral, guys. Let's be honest. It's the Roman numeral.
Yeah. How many the fourths are in comic? But and there's that funny instance that he kind of looks like me back when I had hair.
Yeah,
if I
Chris
were
shaves his head
a
now.
hipster.
Yeah.
And I don't have the goatee anymore. I have a full beard now. But yeah, he has the goatee and kind of like the hipster flock and glasses that I could have had I wanted to.
Sure. I mean, I remember when we saw him back in June.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned that.
Yeah, and he gave the polite, "Oh yeah, I could see it," knowing full well that he could not.
Me and him, we just talked about how if I asked him the question, what is better, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, or Friday the 13th? He's like,
you're one of those douchebags that just walks up to creators and quizzes them at cons, aren't you?
Not all of them. But he was like, well, as a franchise, it's going to be Nightmare on Elm Street because of Dream Warriors, which is hands down
Yes.
the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then as he's like, if we're just counting the first film, it's Halloween all the way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of, I've been Southern Bastards is another good creator-owned book. In terms of prose, I've been rereading Sun Tzu's Art of War just because I was cleaning out the guest room in the house.
Because he's decided to conquer.
Yeah, like my Mongolian ancestors.
Goddamn,
even though Sun Tzu's Chinese. But so I was cleaning out the guest room because my sister's moving back in with me because of a recent breakup. And I found my old copy of Sun Tzu's Art of War, which a girlfriend had given to me in college, and I was like, oh.
What does that say about the relationship?
It lasted like another year or two, so...
Is this the same girl that got you that...
Blu-ray copy of Speed Racer?
Yeah.
That's the one!
Weird gifts.
Yeah. But, okay, speaking of like weird mystery gifts, let's... We kind of like to close it out with like a mystery topic.
We have no idea what Sam's about to ask us.
Right.
The other things we loosely prepared. What's your favorite Eric Bana demon possession movie?
We already know
mine.
Yeah.
Which one are you guys gonna pick?
Star Trek 2009. That would explain his performance. Sorry, Eric Bana.
Take that one, Bana. Take it to the bank.
The ball's in your court
blood
now,
bank.
Bana. But no, I think
we're never gonna get invited to his next demon movie.
Damn it. But so yeah, it's my week to, I guess, pick what the mystery question is. What is your guys' karaoke mainstay?
Now I understand why it was going to be an easy one for me and a hard one for Jake. And yet not that easy because I have a couple.
Well, real quick, we might want to point out to the podcast listeners that Tuesdays we frequent the Old Shebeen
in Fairfax.
And Fridays.
Yeah, and Fridays. Because
I haven't
they
gone
also
to a
have
Friday one yet,
yeah.
but Tuesdays is karaoke night.
I'm sorry, Fairfax, Virginia, because I'm sure there are a couple of Virginians, and who knows? We don't know who's listening to this podcast. Yeah. It might not be just our parents.
But probably.
So anyway, so karaoke is kind of a thing that we try to do just for fun and have a good time.
Well, Sam and I do it. Jake,
I've done it, I think 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And I think 2 of the times were on purpose.
So one of my easy go-tos, like when I don't know what I'm feeling, what I'm hankering, I'll do the Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting by Elton John. But I have a tendency to kind of do it in the style of the Who's cover of it. Just because I'm like, Saturday, 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 Saturday. You know, that kind of
now we're
rock
gonna get
feel.
sued by Elton John, too.
I know, right? And the Who.
Well, Prince will beat them all up, and then he'll just sue us triple.
I'm going to sue you for the knuckle sandwich that I had to give. Even though he doesn't talk that high pitch. He's not Michael Jackson. Or I'll bust out Green Day's Basket Case, because I can do that one.
That's the only Green Day song I like.
I mean, it's a pretty good one.
So,
yeah. What about you, Jakey Poo?
Werewolves of London by Warren Zevon.
Nice.
Which the karaoke host, Dave, he hates that song because he used to work at a Halloween store, and that was one of the 3 songs, along with like the Monster Mash and something else, that they had on the store playlist.
Good job. Good choice.
Whatever. Listen to the lyrics. That song's clever as shit.
It is.
Rest in peace, Warren Zevon. That's seriously, like, I think that song is absolutely hysterical. I want to see like a movie about that. A movie about like the werewolf. You know what I mean? Like,
okay, because I was about to say that there is.
Yeah, no, but like actually going and wanting to order Chinese food,
like following the
and
song,
mutilating a little old lady.
Yeah, like
late last night.
Yeah, like a Puff the Magic Dragon.
Yeah, just following a guy with his hair has to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah. Werewolves of London. I think the other times been Beatles stuff, but like Werewolves of London, like yeah, that's the go-to. I guess I don't really do karaoke that much, but I like to watch other people do karaoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually quite a few songs that I really kind of come back to. There's at least like a good half dozen at this point.
Highway to the danger zone.
I'm gonna get sued by Kenny Loggins, but yeah,
my goal is to just get sued by as many people as possible.
Everyone. Danger Zone is your favorite of my of my songs.
I think it's because I'm such a big fan of Archer.
Yeah. I think I do a good. I'm a big. I listened to a lot of pop punk in high school, so I do a good rock show by Blink-182.
Mm-hmm.
I really like "Build Me Up, Buttercup" by the Foundations. I think I do a decent rendition of that. I've recently been doing "Johnny Be Good" by Chuck Berry, which has been a lot of fun. Kind of a fast, fun song.
One of these days, you'll be able to quote the whole thing from Back to the Future as the preamble.
I introduce it minus talking to the backing band.
You gotta let the band know that it's a standard blues riff in B. Although according to karaoke, it's B flat. So
watch for the riff changes. Yeah, that's
close.
Sorry.
Watch me for the changes and try to keep up.
There it is.
Come
there
on.
It is. Sorry. Yeah.
Shake.
Yeah, me and Chris tend to do both. When we do duets, we do "Fat Bottom Girls" by Queen, which is one of the few Queen songs in my vocal range.
Mine too.
Yeah, and "Shake It" by Metro Station, the band with Miley Cyrus's brother.
And the brother of the guy that plays her brother on Hannah Montana.
Right, that's how they met.
That's a random factoid that I know.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure why I know it.
Because you're a 14-year-old girl.
I am. How did you know?
But yeah, that's been that was really my mystery question for the week, guys. Yeah, somebody else pick one for next week, and I think this is a kind of a good signing off point. Like I said, thanks for catching up with us as we catch up with each other and on the Sunday night catch-up show with Chris, Jake, and Sam.
Yeah, do we want to give out our Twitter handles or something so people can stalk us?
Yeah. If you aren't stalking us on Twitter already, I'm at Sam Stone Show.
I'm at E.G. Nolan.
And I'm at Jake Bozick.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening in. Hopefully we'll see you again next week.
Toodles.
Ciao.